Peter Shilton has made more than 820 league appearances and is England's most capped international with over 110 games to his credit. The great loves of his life are his family, football and horse racing. This is his story.
Is this the chance for Liverpool? Good work, though, by Shilton. Again, going round that defence magnificently. Highway. Evans! Oh, a great save there, too. Toshak. Oh, and here's a chance for Graham. This is Toshak. Really hitting that one. Still Brooking going on. My goodness. Leicester defence has cost it for Robson, and my goodness. Again, the angle wasn't right. Bonds, and a great save. Crossed again there for Brooking. Hit this time, and what a save. What a monumental save by Peter Shilton.
He's been one of the world's best, not only England's best goalkeeper, but he's been one of the world's best keeper for a very, very long time. Very special guy.
Dalglish had covered a lot of ground, and now Rush, and Johnston should have scored. Whelan, I think it was credit the goalkeeper.
Leicester's a little fellow with 9-foot arms hanging around in the Highlands of Scotland somewhere that we don't know about. He is the best we've got.
But this is Souness, and now Rush, and heroics from Peter Shilton.
When we used to have shooting practice with England, for example, I remember going there, and from outside the penalty box, no one ever scored a goal. I mean, that's how good he is, you know.
Steen, a shot on a turn, and a fine save by Shilton.
To have played in front of Peter Shilton, you would have known exactly the way I felt when with Pat Jennings and Gordon Banks, is that you're playing in front of the best there ever is.
On the far side is Lorimer, in a lot of space now for Scotland. The man with the cannonball shot, and a great save by Shilton.
Just talent, nothing else, just talent. You can't be up there with bullshit. If you're a bullshitter, obviously you go out overnight. But he stayed there because he's the best goalkeeper and he's good at his job.
As Bremner takes the corner again for Scotland. It's one they had to win. And it's a tremendous shot there by Dalglish.
He's a superb athlete, and without doubt, he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world.
Curran can hoist one far enough. Boyer's in there. And Holmes was almost in there. What a brave and a good piece of goalkeeping by Shilton.
I think in any walk of life, if you know that somebody is not just reliable, but you can almost forget that. You know, the goal is safe, just make sure we score the other end, and he's that good, I think.
His present players found Peter Shilton in his usual impeccable form. Even Brian Robson couldn't beat him.
He's just a good all-round sportsman.
Hunter, Jones, what a fine save!
On a one-on-one situation, you couldn't better him. I don't think there's ever been anybody better.
And it seemed to have gone over Shilton's head, and somehow he grasped his way back there to push it over.
I grew up in a few different places, actually. We moved house quite a few times through different reasons. Business to start off with. My father used to be in sort of grocery business, and he was tended to change his shops quite often, and in some instances we used to live above the shop. And then as things went a little bit better, we had a house away from the shop in different areas. Well, my childhood was basically surrounded around football. Right from an early age of 8 years old, I was really obsessed with football. And although I went to normal sort of comprehensive schools, that was the only thing that interested me. It's in your blood, I think. I mean, my uncle used to play for Leicester, actually, as a goalkeeper for Leicester Reserves many years before. Maybe that had something to do with it. We've always been a fairly close family as such, certainly very close to my mother and father.
very conscientious. What he did had to be right. There was no half-larks about it. He wanted to be tidy, smart, efficient. Everything had to be so-so. And even to doing his homework, even that had to be done, even if it was 10 o'clock at night. And his boots, even the laces, everything was spot on. And well, he was just a perfectionist.
That's it. That's the word I was looking for. Perfectionist about everything. Meals, clothes, everything. Speech, manners, etiquette. Everything had got to be perfect, you know. 100%, nothing less. And he expected that of us as well.
This particular spot just down here, where it says 0898, was where I first came to watch my first match. And believe it or not, I remember it because I think it was one of Gordon Banks' first games for Leicester. And he'd only just been signed, I think, from Chesterfield. And I remember just sort of standing there looking over the fence, and it's obviously, I think I was only 8 at the time, something like that. But it was a long time ago, but it's just something that sticks in your mind, you know. I ended up in goal basically just at an early age through being sort of put in goal, and you know, it was my turn, so to speak.
As secretary of the Leicester and District Schools Football Association, I was asked to go and watch a match against Court Crescent, against whom I've forgotten, a long while ago. But that was the first time, because there was a lot of stories going around about quite an extraordinary young lad, because he only was 8, 9 years of age then, playing for Court Crescent. So I went along to watch. He played centre forward, I think, Peter, not in goal.
Could have been, yes, yeah, could have been. Could have both in those days.
That was an experience that was duplicated quite a number of times, because it was part of the format of your life at school, wasn't it, to play in goal, and if you were losing, go out and score a couple of goals and put them in the credit side, and then go back in goal and try and hold it firm. But he was that sort of general utility player at school level, certainly, until he came to international level, and then he was a goalkeeper.
That's right. I think one of the ideas was to play centre forward, even in those days, was to give yourself a chance to appreciate, you know, how centre forward thinks. And in fact, you know, it's always been a bit of a ploy of mine, you know, to try and play centre forward if possible, because it does give you an idea of how people think and what sort of runs they try to make to get the ball, and that was a lot of the thinking behind it at the time, you know. I used to score a few goals as well, though, but had a bit of luck.
27 one season.
The age I took it seriously was, I think, probably round about maybe 11 or 12. I started to feel that, you know, I'd got a little bit of publicity through playing in the local schools teams, and I started to pick the paper up and read different things about myself, and something started to tell me that maybe I'd got a chance, and I then started doing a little bit of training at Leicester City Football Club, and that obviously even made me more determined. Well, this car park actually is really where it all started for me, because as I said, you know, we used to do Tuesday and Thursday night training. I used to come straight from school on my bike, and I used to try and do about an hour and a half's training before the semi-pros and the amateurs used to come down. In those days it used to be shale, and there was a lot more give in it, and you could sort of dive around on it a bit better. Occasionally we'd go onto the pitch at the end of the season. We'd be able to go onto Filbert Street pitch. I don't really remember my first day at Leicester. I think basically because I was always involved at the club, like I said, from an early age, and I think that obviously I was used to the club. I think the one thing I do remember is that being an apprentice, they always try to give you the worst jobs when you first get there, to try, I think, to sort of put you down a little bit. Well, this is obviously the shower and bathroom, and after we'd cleaned everywhere and cleaned the showers, the apprentices, like I said, there used to be 4 of us, only 4 of us. The worst job we found was we used to have to clean the brass on the showers. So as you can see, there's 5 showers, and throughout the week this would get very, very dirty and grubby, and as you can see, the apprentices still do. I'm just chatting to a couple of apprentices and they say they still do them, and they don't like doing them. So I suppose it's one of those things that it's a chore that they like the apprentices to do, I suppose. Right, well, this was the gymnasium that I used to use Tuesday and Thursday evenings when I used to come down straight after school. Obviously, it was very dark outside, and this was the ideal place to do some work. And what we used to do, we used to have some coconut mats in those days, which were very hard to dive on, but at least it gave a little bit of protection. And we used to sort of have balls hit from varying distances. And, we used to get one or two of the first team players in those days, and they used to walk through the gymnasium, and the trainer at that time used to stop them. And obviously for me at that time it was a big thrill, and he used to invite them to take shots against me.
I got the reports about the reserve games when I was playing in the first team, and Peter would be starring every now and again in there, and people would be saying how well he's playing in the reserves. He was going to prove himself that he was going to sort of push me out and make the grade himself, which is what actually happened here at Leicester's, you know.
Hunter, Jones, what a fine save! Gorgeous save from this man Jones by Peter Shilton. And Hurst again getting up well to nod that down for Brooking. Still Brooking going on, my goodness, and that almost beat Shilton. McDowell again. Redknapp trying again to get behind that Leicester defence, has crossed it for Robson, and my goodness, how did Shilton get that one? Moore and Robson. Again, the angle wasn't right. Bonds, and a great save by Shilton. To Frank Lampard. Crossed again there for Brooking. Heatless time, and what a save! What a monumental save by Peter Shilton.
I never modelled myself on Gordon because I realised, even at an early age, that you had to have your own style. Nobody could copy anybody else. But what I tried to do was to try to watch him, and indeed I watched other goalkeepers and try to pick out what I felt were their best points, and try to find out why they were the best points, and try to learn from them and put them into my game. It was in a discotheque, local discotheque in Leicester, and it was just, we just had a night out and met each other, and then obviously followed it up.
I quite fancied him at the time, and when we were courting and he used to take me out for meals, I mean, we had the salt and pepper pot out to actually show me what offside was. I hadn't a clue.
Yeah,
which is
she used to
true.
enjoy that every meal, especially
Coffee time, the salt and pepper pot came out.
I actually made my debut when I was at Leicester for England. It was in 1970, and I mean that was a fabulous thing to happen. Alf Ramsey preferred me to Ray Clemence, and I played, and I remember it very vividly because the first thing I did, I mean, I kicked the ball down the middle of the pitch and we scored from it.
The scoring began after 11 minutes. A clearance covering 3/4 of the pitch found Geoff Hurst. A quick pass, and Francis Lee ran round the defence to put England in the lead. After 22 minutes, as the ball bounced about in the East German penalty area, a well-timed half-volley from Martin Peters left the goalies standing. The East Europeans mounted some strong attacks, but Peter Shilton proved a worthy successor to Gordon Banks. He had no chance, however, with a magnificent 30-yard shot from Vogel, a goal which put East Germany back in the game and renewed their fighting spirit.
And it's a great start. We won the game 3-1, and from then on, Alf Ramsey brought Gordon back into the squad, and everybody realised what he'd done, and I remained understudy to Gordon for a few years.
I think with Peter, he had a great grounding in terms of following Gordon Banks, because I thought Gordon Banks was one of the, if not the best keeper I've played in front of. And of course, Peter followed him at Leicester, he followed him at Stoke, and of course, he followed him in the England team. Peter must have had a great apprenticeship in terms of being involved with Gordon Banks.
Probably consistency is the key factor for us both. I look around today and see the young goalkeepers that are in the first division, and unfortunately they're up and down. They'll have maybe a couple of good games, and then they'll be very jittery, very shaky the next 2 or 3 games. I always found that when I played, I could relax in the game, and the more years went by, I was more confident about my game, and I'm certain that's what's happened with Peter.
The best save I ever saw Gordon make was one that made him very famous, which was the one against Pelé. I mean, fantastic save, and I think that is one of those saves that people obviously will always remember.
There goes Carsino, he's onside. That's a good cross ball, it's Pelé! And a fantastic save by Banks! What a fantastic save by Gordon Banks!
I remember it being a superb ball from Carlos Alberto that set the move going. It was an unbelievable pass. It bent round our fullback right into Jairzinho's path, who just cut across the fullback and put him out of the game. Pelé rose above Mulray and punched the ball very, very hard and low down in the corner. But it wasn't going straight into the corner. It was going to bounce in front of me, and I had to first of all make my dive across the goal as quickly as I possibly could, and at the same time judge how high the ball was actually bouncing off the floor. And I managed to just get my hand to it, and after that it sort of spun over the bar, which I was quite happy to see.
Peter always wanted to be number one, and that desire to stay number one has been probably his motivation and the reason why he has stayed there.
I came across him in sometime in the 60s. I remember playing against Peter. I remember scoring a few against him, which is nice, because not many people score against Peter Shilton. I scored a hat-trick against him once. Hope he remembers that. Peter's main strengths, I feel, number one and most important of all is dedication. Without dedication, I don't think you can stay in football or any other job really for the length of time that he has. And because of his dedication, he's remained fit, and he has total fitness. He's got the fitness of a 20-year-old man, probably half his age. His narrow-mindedness, his single-mindedness to set out to achieve to be the greatest goalkeeper of his generation, and in doing that, to be the complete master of his trade. One-on-one against Peter Shilton, the first thing I would do if it was me, and you have to be quick, is make sure you meet him in the box, because he'll try and take you down outside the box, and in doing so only give away a free kick. Professional foul, nasty, but goalkeepers do develop those sort of habits. So get in the box before you take him on. Give yourself as wide a berth as possible. Try and let him make the first move, but you've got to be quick. You've got to be very quick indeed.
Puts it over again, a little flick through. Towards Anderson, and here's a chance now, and a great save by Shilton from Onishenko. And Hughes got a head to it and got it away. There's a shot here and a fine save. Oh, and a marvellous save by Peter Shilton as Lockett came in.
The next trip I went on was obviously the following year to Mexico for the World Cup. I was included. I think Alf Ramsey took 28 players over there, and we were away for for quite a time, quite a number of weeks, preparing for the game. And then Alf Ramsey announced his final squad, and he left out 6 players. The game against Poland, it's amazing really how through your career people always remember certain things that happen, and you know, they most of them are probably the worst things that could happen. But no, I mean, I've had a lot of things happen in my career, you know, a lot of good things, but obviously a few bad things. And that was probably the first big bad thing that happened against me, because I was, like a lot of people, and I was quite young at that age, desperate to play in the World Cup. And, you know, it was one of those situations where, you know, we left it to the last match and we needed to get a result on the night. And we tried our hardest. Everybody knows the story. We tried our hardest. We had so many chances, and it was one of those nights. Nothing went right, and I ended up getting blamed for the goal. There was a few things happened before that, but you know, the fella hit a great shot, and it was skidding, and I tried to make a perfect save, and maybe these days I maybe should have blocked it with anything and just kept the ball out.
The eyes of over 100,000 people here at Wembley on him and the goalkeeper he hopes to beat, Tomaszewski. Shilton can't even look at all, though. Clark, he's got it! 1-1.
It's a test of character from then on to try and get yourself back, but I had to wait quite a while to get in the World Cup after that. I didn't actually follow Gordon Banks to Stoke City. There was a goalkeeper called Jeff Farmer that had been playing for Stoke for 18 months after Gordon's accident, and I actually took over from Jeff Farmer. I remember the first season I was there that we were actually tipped by a few people to actually win the league that year, and then we had 2 players that actually went and broke their legs right at the end of the season, and we sort of fell away a little bit and actually finished 5th. And then the club had a lot of bad luck because they had the problem, the roof blew off the stand in a gale, and it wasn't insured, and one thing or another, and they got into financial difficulties, and then had to start selling off quite a few of the players, and the team suffered. My time at Stoke really didn't help my England career, because I think it was at a time when Don Revie took over as England manager, and that is the time that I actually lost my place, and I was understudy to Ray for quite a time, and that was Don Revie's choice, and obviously I had to accept that. When Ron Greenwood actually took over from the England team, I felt that I don't think neither Ray nor myself was entirely happy with the situation, but we weren't entirely unhappy with it, because it was a delicate situation. I mean, I felt Ron Greenwood did what he felt was right, in the sense that he had 2 goalkeepers that he felt were worthy of playing for England.
Peter ranks as #1 and has been #1 now for 15-20 years. One of the biggest insults that was ever afforded to his career was when Ron Greenwood was deciding to use him and Ray Clemence as alternative goalkeepers. There's no such thing. Shilton was far ahead of Clemence on every aspect of goalkeeping. He was streets ahead, and it was a bit of an insult to Peter Shilton.
Nicely there for Bell, who was right up there. Peters too, right in there, but now it falls for Macquarie. On the far side is Lorimer, in a lot of space now for Scotland. The man with the cannonball shot, and a great save by Shilton.
I can still picture Peter now when we played against Scotland at Wembley in 1973, I think it was, and Kenny Dalglish, I think he hooked the ball in the top corner. It seemed to me as if it was going in the top corner, and Peter somehow flung himself across the goal and tipped it round the post, and that was with a minute to go. We beat Scotland 1-0, and I mean, I've seen many moments like that where Peter's come to, in a sense, my rescue when I've made a mistake and other defenders have made a mistake. He's a superb athlete, and without doubt he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world.
As Bremner takes the corner again for Scotland. It's one they had to win, and it's a tremendous shot there by Dalglish against the English post.
I went to watch him at Mansfield. He was playing in front of about 7,000 people at Mansfield, because in those days nobody knew Shilton could play. He'd got a record number of caps along the line, but in those days, nobody fancied him. They thought he was overpaid, over-muscled, and not as good as people thought. And I'll repeat, I went to Mansfield to see him play in front of 7,000 people, and we signed him. And then his career took off.
As regards Brian Clough, for example, I think that he knows how to get the best out of people. Now, some people need to be a little bullied a little bit. Some people need, to be reassured. And I think that there's obviously certain instances that would be picked upon, which would be very outrageous or unusual, that would be hurtful in some respects. But at the end of the day, probably did the player a lot of good that he was doing it to. Yeah, I mean, he can be outrageous, no doubt about it. He does say things that are controversial. That's part of his trademark. I mean, he's full value for any interview that he does.
If you're a centre-forward, for example, having got through two ugly, ignorant, thug-like centre-halves, then you have to then face Shilton, and you've got to then put it in the net. It was a daunting prospect, and I always thought that when centre-forwards or inside-forwards or strikers, whatever name you want to put to them, got through our defence and then had to face Shilton, they went, oh shit, we'll scrap it. Just talent, nothing else, just talent. You can't be up there with bullshit. If you're a bullshitter, obviously you go out overnight. But he stayed there because he's the best goalkeeper and he's good at his job. He had a tremendous impact. He was signed, I think, in the month of September. We went on to win European Cups, League Cups, League Championships, and you name it, we won everything in sight. So that was the type of impact he had.
We were just a great all-round team. It wasn't necessarily a team of youngsters either. I mean, we had quite a bit of experience in the side, but we had a lot of players that were establishing themselves at that time. I mean, the likes of Tony Woodcock and Peter With. I mean, they were our striking partnership, but they weren't well known as such. And then you had the experienced players like Larry Lloyd and Kenny Burns, who had been around at other different clubs. So it was a mixture, John McGovern.
Woodcock and Bertels has got it! His first ever goal for Nottingham Forest, and it had to be in the European Cup.
Yes, of the 4 games. 1-1 here in the league, 0-0 at Anfield. And Norton 1-0 to Forest in the League Cup final as Bertels cuts through on his own. The pace and confidence to do it. Not a bad looking cross. Woodcock. And a superb goal from Barrett.
And I felt that I could do a very good job for them. I just had a look at the side and I knew they could score goals, and I felt that I maybe just be able to tighten things up at the back a little bit for them. And that's exactly how it worked out.
Is loose on this side. If Curran can hoist one far enough, Boyer's in there, and Holmes was almost in there. What a brave and a good piece of goalkeeping by Shilton. Well, they thought Holmes would be a danger man, and as Curran lifted that one in there, Boyer nearly got what could have been a decisive touch there. Holmes was there too. Look at that brave bit of keeping. Aggressive in the second half. Here's Robertson now. Can he get a shot in? Oh, and a goal there. Oh. Now Bertels. Going all the way, Bertels! Gemmell. Woodcock. And another one, Tony Woodcock.
He had a rather different impact on Larry Lloyd and Kenny Burns because they used to give him stick in the sense that he was getting all the headlines and all the credit, and they said, just a minute, you shit, the ball's never got through to you.
Given away to Bowyer, and this time Robertson has got a yard of space. Malmo closing him down so quickly, 2 to beat. But that's a better looking cross for Francis! Francis breaks the deadlock right on half-time. John Robertson, who was later to miss a penalty, created the Forest goal 3 minutes before half-time. From his corner, Larry Lloyd flicked the ball on, and Kenny Burns stepped in with his first goal of the season, and it was enough to add the Super Cup to Forest's list of trophies.
I asked for a transfer from Nottingham Forest because, to be quite truthful, the side had fell away. The side that I played with and we won the trophies was for about 3 years, and then the side started to break up and a lot of players were transferred. You know, starting with Peter With, Tony Woodcock left, etc. There was a lot of transfers to I mean, we actually bought Trevor Francis for £1 million. That was one transfer out of a lot of transfers that went on, and we weren't as successful after that period. We for 2 years we didn't really win the sort of trophies we had done, and I got to a point where I felt that something told me that you know, that a change might do me good.
Being the businessman I am, I might as well have got some cash for him or a few bob for him. So he went to Lorry for 275,000 quid, which is chicken feed nowadays, but it wasn't in those days. He made one mistake, Shilton did. He should have stayed with me, and then we could have gone on to win domestic prizes, as I've gone on to do it, and he's failed to do it. The only time he won anything domestic was when he was working with me. So if he looks back, he dropped a clanger. When I sold him to Laurie McMenemy, he came out with that phrase also regarding a good goalkeeper is worth 10 points a season. Shilton is, was, and will ever be until he hangs his boots up.
When I took over the England team, I had to make several decisions. One was, who was my best goalkeeper? Because prior to that, the goalkeeping position in England had been alternated between Clements and Shilton. Now, I had to make a decision which, in my opinion, was the best. Now, it was a difficult decision because they're both very, very good goalkeepers. And so I chose Peter. And therefore, that's why Peter, really, under me, has played a great deal of number of matches, because he's had the continuity. Because I felt the best keeper must play. If you're the best goalkeeper in the country, you should play in most of the matches. Not every now and again. So he's now, as you know, played more than 100 games. And the last 7 years under me, he's played very regularly, because in my opinion, he's been quite the most outstanding goalkeeper in the country, and therefore he must play. Strength, lovely physique, he's agile, he's brave, he's got a lovely pair of hands, he makes good decisions, he's got stature, he's got presence. I mean, how do you bundle all that into one phrase? You can't. He's a master of many things, and that's why, for me, he's been one of the world's best, not only England's best goalkeeper, but he's been one of the world's best keeper for a very, very long time. Very special guy.
My next World Cup I played in was actually, well, I was involved in, I should say, was in Spain. I had to wait quite a long time for us to actually qualify again. But I thoroughly enjoyed that. I mean, it was a great World Cup, and I genuinely believe that we did have a very good chance then of doing well in it.
And Saman gets the goal to Trevor Francis.
One has to admire the French spirit. The
They push forward to the last in what is now a hopeless cause. Phil Neal is on for what can only be a matter of seconds. And goes straight in at left back. And indeed doesn't get a touch on the ball. England are back in the World Cup finals with a victory, but what a hard-fought one, and a sporting one too.
Although we remained unbeaten for the tournament, I think we only let one goal in 5 games, which was the best defensive record in the World Cup. We didn't qualify for the semi-finals, but you know we obviously didn't score enough. I think we drew against West Germany, and drew against Spain, and we didn't qualify, although we were unbeaten. Well, I moved to Southampton came about basically because Lauren McMenemy at the time wanted to sign me, and I think we've talked about moving to big clubs, but basically I've always signed for the managers that I've wanted to play for me. And it's been very important to me to sort of respect the person that I'm going to work with.
Well, I needed a goalkeeper for the team, and I'd always had good quality goalkeepers, but in England we've always been lucky that we've had some extra special goalkeepers, above average keepers. And I tried a couple of years earlier to get Ray Clements when he left Liverpool, and I missed out there. He went to Tottenham, and a couple of years later I heard the whisper that Brian Clough and him were ready to part company, and I remember ringing Cloughie up and saying, "Is it true?" He says, "Yes, come up and take the bugger off my hands." And really what he was meaning was total respect. Didn't want him to go, but whatever the reason, it was time to part company, and I dived in there, and it was not an easy deal, because Peter, that's the one time that he will really work hard to look after he's a professional. He work hard to look after his own interests, and the contract was never going to be easy. And he asked all the questions, and he wanted every I dotted and T crossed. And it was a great relief to me when he eventually signed the form, I can tell you. But once he'd signed it, he stuck by the contract and he never caused any trouble. And there was many an occasion he could, especially in the early days, because he was brought into a team that had just lost Mick Channon and Kevin Keegan. And we got 1 or 2 hidings early on, 6-0 at Tottenham, 5-0 at Anfield.
Well, it's some shot to beat the England goalkeeper from that range. It was only thin air for Peter Shilton. Southampton gave him time, and it curled away past Shilton. 2-0, 21 minutes. Souness, and Rush couldn't quite collect. Dalglish had covered a lot of ground, and now Rush, and Johnston should have scored. Whelan, I think it was credit the goalkeeper. Shilton was racing along his line to stop Whelan getting a second. There was Johnston, blocked by Wright, and it was Shilton's foot, but this is Souness, and now Rush, and heroics from Peter Shilton. Peter Shilton at the wrong end in a shooting gallery. But somehow he survived. It seemed that Rush was certain to score, but Shilton refused to be beaten. Rory McMenemy, who's under the weather with a bout of the flu, and surely only feeling worse after his side start here. And the flag has stayed down, and it's Mark Lawrenson with a straight run in on goal here. It's 3-0. Shilton left totally exposed again by a back four who weren't sure whether they wanted to play offside or not. Peter Shilton's thoughts perhaps turning to the fact that he's already conceded 6 goals once this season at Tottenham. Lawrenson. Johnston with a dummy from Dalglish for Lawrenson. Superb! He may well look to the heavens. Souness, and this time it's Johnston against Shilton, who tries to go round him. Still Johnston. And finished off by Ronnie Whelan.
I was waiting for this Peter Shilton, this world-class goalkeeper, to come in and say, excuse me, what have I let myself in for here? And to his credit, he never, ever once complained. And there's a lot of lads that are pretty good at ordinary league games. But then you get stuck in a big stadium, thousands of miles away from home, where the crowd all shouting for the opposition, and you're the nearest one to them, stood in between them sticks. And able to handle that situation and relish it and keep your concentration. Very few of them around, you know, and Bobby Robson must be thankful every time he writes his name down on that piece of paper. I think pressmen get kidded a wee bit. They watch players train. Now, the majority of the outfield players run around, they kick the ball, they play little games and shooting practice, and the goalkeeper joins in most of these things. When the rest have gone in, the goalkeeper then stays out with a couple of the staff and does extra work. Peter does a lot of work from a short distance, reflex saves, people hammering a football at him from 5 and 6 yards, and he stays on his line and he's continually diving for this. He's done this for 30 years. And if you're watching in his games, there's many an occasion you think, well, where's the goalkeeper? Why didn't he come off his line? He's never really been a goalkeeper to take a chance. See, if a goalkeeper comes off his line, he's got to get the ball. I think with Peter, if there's an element of doubt, he won't come. That's why he works ever so hard when he stays on his line to make these reflex saves. And I think personally he's the best in the business at that. He used to do the same excellent save time and again. In the early days, as I say, when he should have had double pay. I'll tell him that now, but I wouldn't tell him at the time, because we had such a leaky defence in front of him. The shots were raining in from all angles.
My career at Southampton, I felt was very successful, because I think in 5 years I was at the club, we'd got to 3 semi-finals and finished runners-up in the league, which was the highest position that Southampton had ever finished in the First Division. And we got beat twice in the semi-final by Liverpool, and once two FA Cup semi-finals, once by Liverpool, once by Everton, and a Littlewoods Cup semi-final by Liverpool. So we were very close to achieving a lot, and for a club like Southampton in a 5-year period, that was a very, very successful time. The World Cup in Mexico obviously was, I've got a lot of memories of that. To start off with, I mean, the actual work and the build-up to the World Cup was absolutely incredible. The game against Argentina in the quarterfinals basically was one of, we got to a point where we felt that we got ourselves rolling. You know, we'd beaten Poland, we'd beaten Paraguay, and we felt that our confidence was quite high. I think the turning point was obviously the incident with Maradona and the handball. I mean, everybody's seen what's happened, and you know, it was one of those situations where it's happened quite a few times in the past. I mean, you get forwards go for the ball, and if they feel that they're not going to get it at a particular time, then they do take a chance by just sort of flicking their arm at it and knocking it past the goalkeeper. If it had been one of the Argentinians who had knocked the ball over, instead of Kenny Sampson, I think Kenny miskicked and the ball flew up, he might have even been offside. So he was actually running into the area at full pelt. I was obviously having to move from a standing start, and I felt that something told me that I might just get there before him. That's why I went for it. Otherwise, I'd have just stood and tried to react to his header. But I felt that I could just get there, and it's a split-second sort of thing that you do. And I think the pictures proved that I would have just beaten him. I'd got my arm over his head. But I was never in a position, I was always stretching for it. I was always chasing the ball. And I just sort of dived at last minute to try and get my arm over his head. And he knew that, so that's why he touched it. I mean, otherwise he'd have flicked it with his head and knocked it in anyway. Now, I think that incident with Maradona is one that will be relived, because certain things happen in certain games. You know, it was a talking point, and you know, I think Maradona sort of fueled the situation when he said it was, you know, the hand of God.
But we haven't been able to control the play in midfield the way that Maradona has been able to do. And he's hurting England again here. It's a brilliant run. It's one of the World Cup great goals. And there's no doubt about that one.
He's the best footballer in Britain, if not in the world. Derby County has a top manager, and we have ambitions to achieve our past glories. And he persuaded me, with not too great difficulty, that without Shilton we haven't got a chance. Shilton and Wright, and we acquired both these players from Southampton, and thanks to both of them, and perhaps Wright won't mind me giving more credit to Shilton, Derby got into the first division, and last season came fifth. Not a bad performance for a club that was in the knacker's yard not so many years ago.
Well, I mean, I think he's done a tremendous job for Derby County. He took over the club when they were in dire straits, and it looked as though they might even fold up at one point. He took over the club, and he's helped finance, you know, the redevelopment.
By all rights, 40 years too old, but not for sure. We don't belong to the Salvation Army in Derby any more than England manager would choose him if he went up to it. He is up to it. And at the rate he's going, there's no reason why he shouldn't be there when he's 50. He's good at it. Nice bloke. Somebody you wouldn't mind having a pint with, or have him in your family. He's just a good all-round sportsman.
I've got a great relationship with the lads. A lot of them, you know, well, very young compared to myself, but you know, I've been in the game a long time. I mean, I'm one of the lads. I like a laugh and a giggle, and I like to think that they respect me for what I've done and the way I've tried to help them when I'm at the club.
The best thing about Peter, as he's always done, he's set great examples, whether it be in training and certainly on the pitch. He's been outstanding. His first season here, he was outstanding for us. It was important for Derby County that we establish ourselves and create a little bit of stability in the first division. And the arrival of Peter Shilton helped us create that. And of course, as you may know, Peter signed a 3-year contract, and we hope he sees that contract out. He's a great example to all the young pros at this club. Like I say, both on the field and off the field. I speak as a Derby County fan, and I was a director at one stage, and the extraordinary thing is I go and watch with my sons, and over the years we've seen Peter Shilton come and play at the baseball ground, and you've suddenly thought, Derby attack, oh, it's Peter Shilton, there's no chance of getting through. And when he came to Derby, we were watching and thinking, oh God, we've got Peter Shilton on our side, and that's really all I can say about Peter Shilton, is that you feel totally safe.
I'd like to be remembered for you know, being a nice person and have given help to people in the game as well. You know, putting a little bit back in with people I've worked with, really. I think if I've got the respect of the people I've worked with, that would mean a lot to me as well. I mean, that's the thing that I was always taught by my father, you know, although you may upset people at times and they may not always agree with what you do, as long as they respect you and for who you are and what you are, then that'd be very important to me. I don't think being a professional you can go through your career and say, yes, you know, I've won everything in the game, but you know, I haven't made a penny. I haven't made enough to be comfortable. Then again, I think that a lot of players make a hell of a lot of money and actually achieve nothing in the game, just by being lucky or by getting the moves at the right time, and a lot of it is luck, you know. I mean, you have to have the ability, but a lot of it can be luck and moving at the right time. Especially players who have moved abroad have made far more money than players who have stayed in England will ever make. I think you've got to get the balance between being financially secure and trying to win things. I've always been interested in horse racing, and I've tried to do a little bit of breeding on that side. That might be a small type of interest for me.
I mean, last time I saw her, she was just cantering around that...
Yeah, but she's hard fit now. She's not soft anymore, you know.
No, she's not, no. She's got some width on her as well, isn't she? You know, when you look at her.
I love her head. I think she's a lovely, great big ear and a lovely eye, but...
Yeah.
She's bound to be honest.
Yeah. I think to be a very good trainer or a great trainer, I think you've got to be born to do it. It's like, and anything that that bit extra gives you. I mean, you can learn a trade, you can learn to be a footballer, but to be top of the profession, you're born to do it. I mean, I'd love to do it, you know, but I would never. I don't, you know. I think I've given too many years to football, and you know, I'd be too old to really learn it, you know. I think yes, I was born to play football, but I think also, you know, I was from sort of an early age was the only thing that I really, well, not the only thing, but sort of football and cricket was the only two things that you really tried.
In his hands. Lovely. Nice, like it, George. Headers. Well done, excellent.
Why do I keep going in football? Well, I can answer that quite clearly, really, and quite easily. I mean, basically because I can't think of anything else that I would like to do with my life. To be able to compete when you're 40 and to be able to challenge against youngsters of 20 is a great feeling. While I can still do it, and while my body tells me that I can still do it, and while my mind tells me I can still do it, then I see no reason why I shouldn't do it. You do miss certain things, but I've tried to you know, to do as much as I can with the kids. And I mean, I've always tried to give them a very good holiday once a year, where we can go abroad and go to a nice hotel and all be a family, and people don't recognise you so much. But I mean, there are the odd things, I must admit, where, especially if you want to go for a walk in public or go somewhere, people are very good with me. I mean, we very rarely do we get pestered, or people are very polite and they always come up to you and they always say, "Hello, Peter," they always shout Peter, and very friendly.
I'm proud of him because I think he's deserved everything. He's worked really hard, and well, I just can't say enough about that. I think everything that he's achieved, he's worked for. It's not been given to him.
The way he tackled his job, I had no qualms because he only wanted to be number one, and that's a good thing to set out to do, and your target's good from the start.
I think there are still young people in particular who watch football who want to be the next Brian Robson, want to be the next Peter Shilton, want to be the next Gary Lineker. No, I think that part of the business is still very much alive and well. Even grown-up people have their idols, and that's part and parcel of sport. I don't think that has been lost, to be perfectly honest. What I do feel is there's probably not as many of them as there used to be.
Well, I like staying in work, and it's dodgy in my profession. Now, whether it's dodgy in his or not, I don't know. I think it is. He's been lucky where he's never been injured, obviously, and apart from me getting injured when I was 28, I've never been injured yet, until I fall off this wall, and then I'll be all right.
What time?
I hope he plays till he's 50, the old
9
bastard.
o'clock at night.
Look out, Pete.
Oh, nice bit of footwork there. We always used to take the mickey out of each other, and towards the end of my career, I used to call him Dracula, because I used to say he used to hate a cross, you know. No, I'd say that he's almost a perfect goalkeeper. I mean, his positional sense is brilliant, and his agility is, well, you know, you can't dispute he's the best in the world.
Peter can continue as long as he wants to. And as long as he's got that desire to be number one, that desire to be a perfectionist, I think he can go on for as long as he wants to.
Again, going round that defence, magnificently highway. Evans! Oh, a great save there too. Toshak, oh, and here's a chance for Graham. This is Toshak. Really hitting that one. Still blocking going on. My goodness! This defence has cost him. Corruption, and my goodness! Again, the angle wasn't right. Bonds, and a great save. Lost again there for Brooking. Hit this time, and what a save! What a monumental save by Peter Shilton.